there, my name is Margaret. I'm with Two Buds Floral Artistry, and today I'm going to show you how to build a Whoville tree, or one of the Grinch trees, something similar to this. And first we're going to start with just going over the kit content. So if you've purchased a kit from us, this is what will be in your kit. As well, if you haven't and you're thinking about it, you can head on over to the website and take a look. We'll have them available all through December. So there's lots of time still to purchase a kit if you haven't. Anyway, so we'll start with what you get. So the first thing you get, you're going to get greenery. I'll just go over the greenery. So you get a couple stems of fir. So fir is the short needles. Then you get a stem or two of pine. Pine has the long needles. And then you get a bundle of cedar. So a full bundle of cedar is what you get in the kit. So that's the greenery. In terms of everything else, you're going to get a half a block that's cut to size for your container of dry wet foam. So it's wet foam, but it comes dry. And then you'll have a ceramic, a glass, or a metal pot, and you'll notice that it's actually a third filled with sand, and that's just to weigh it down and also to hold just extra moisture in it. And then for the decorations, what you get is you get one dangle ball, so the ball that hangs from the tip of the tree. And then you get assorted, just a set of assorted ornaments. So there'll be 15 stars, balls, things like that. We also include a few of these little styrofoam glitter balls, a few fun little pom-poms. You'll have 2 cards, one labeled bullion wire and one labeled tree trim. We throw in some aluminum wire swirls and twirls, just fun things to add more bling to the tree. And then you'll also get a few of these little wooden skewers and some little wooden toothpick skewers. And I'll go over what you need those for. So that's the entire kit contents. Things that you will need to get started is you need a sink or a bucket of water. I just actually put a bucket with some clean water in it. You'll need a hot glue gun with lots of glue sticks. You will need, I don't have it with me here, sorry, some pruning shears, something that you can cut the greenery with. And then I also keep like a sharp paring knife or a sharp kitchen knife. And then you might need just regular scissors as well. You'll probably want to cover your work surface first. I don't have to because mine always gets covered with stuff. But if you're doing it on a nice table, make sure you lay down newspaper or a disposable cloth. Mostly because it can get quite messy, and a lot of the greenery actually leaks sap. So it gets sticky as well. So I'd also recommend wearing an apron. If you have a sensitivity to anything like greenery or grass or anything like that, one thing I will point out is that when you're trimming cedar, it has quite a lot of, the branch kind of flakes off, which can actually irritate your skin here. So if you find it easier to wear something long sleeve or put on some gloves, you can do that as well to avoid that irritation. And other than that, probably some Christmas music and a glass of wine. Hi there, welcome back to the Whoville tree kit instructions. And so we're just going to talk about kind of we're going to go through steps 1 to 3 in this video. We're going to start with our floral foam. So as mentioned before in the previous video, it's dry, so it does need to be completely soaked. So I have a clean bucket of water here, and what you want to do is you just want to place it in either your sink or your bucket, and you just want to let it absorb the water on its own. Important thing about floral foam is you never want to push it down. You want it to absorb it on its own time. And now it's instant foam, so you can see it absorbs super quick. Yeah, so I'll just let that soak. In the meantime, I'm just going to let that sit in there for a minute. Just get super saturated. I'm going to pull my pot here, and as I mentioned before, it has sand in it. And what we do is I add the sand just to add weight to the container, and also the sand also retains a lot of moisture as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just fill the container with water and saturate that sand. So after it's all kind of saturated, you can now grab your foam out of the water, and it's cut to size, so you should just have to stick it in and gently push it down until it's at the top of the sand. Now it should be more or less even with the container, and it shouldn't move anywhere, so that's good to go. So we're going to put that off to the side, and we're going to talk about step 3 of the instructions. We're going to go over the greenery and just trimming it to size. So we're going to start with the bundle of cedar. So you can see there's quite a few stems. It's a 3-pound bundle, so they weigh it. So you might have different size pieces, different length pieces, etc. You can take a look and see what you have. What you want to do is kind of determine first the height that you want your tree to be. For something like this, I recommend, I'm not sure, like about between 24 and 30 inches from the ground, or from the tabletop. So we're looking for a height probably around there. So by the time it tips over, it'll be around there. It's hard to visualize, but I'll just start. So when you cut any of the greenery, you want to cut, I always cut at the crotch of the branch, so just right at the base here. And the reason I do that is because when you cut there, then you have a nice fresh piece to start with. You won't have stems sticking out there. So I cut that. So this was one piece, so you can just see the height. So when you stick it into the container, and you're just going to stick it in a couple inches, you can see now how high your tree is going to be. So this is a good like height. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and cut a couple long ones. I'm going to leave that one off to the side. So this one here is quite nice and long. I'm going to cut this guy right here. You can see. So we have some nice tall pieces. I'm going to do one more tall piece. And I'm going to cut it around here. You can see the height, starting in the center like that. You can see the height after it goes in. So these 3 are kind of my tallest pieces. And then the rest of the pieces you're going to just cut. So in the instructions, you can trim the long pieces at the base of the branch. So for instance, this one here I cut. You can see at the base how long these ones are. So we're going to use all those pieces. So we're going to cut them off of the main stem, because this main stem also is really thick. So if we do that, then we have thinner, we can put more pieces into the foam, or we can fit more pieces into the foam. Anything that goes into the foam, you want to remove off of the bottom of the stem. So I usually just pull it with my fingers. As an alternative, what you can do, this is why I also recommend using a kitchen knife, is you can shave it off as well, which makes it easier. I'll show you here. If you shave it off of the piece, you can just shave it off, and then you don't have to use your hand. Okay, so there's a couple ways of doing that. So you're just going to get all your pieces ready. Some nice pieces. Sometimes I like to leave the base, like a piece like this here. I'll cut here and then here again. So then you end up with 2 kind of bulky pieces, which are really nice for filling out the base of the tree. So it's going to be fairly thick, and then it's going to get thinner as it goes up. So filling out the base, it's nice to put these thick pieces at the bottom. Any pieces that are a little smaller, let me see if I can find one. Something like this, where you have kind of shorter branches coming off. So we might want to cut there and use this piece for the main structure. But this kind of stuff here, you might want to save just for the end. for the next step, what we do is we use some pieces around the outside to kind of have that flare of greenery out. Now there's a couple options in the instructions when you're placing your greenery. I talk about doing two different styles. There's one style where I have the greenery flaring out around the base, so you will use all of these little pieces, kind of similar to this, around the base of the tree. So you want to save all these little pieces for placing at the bottom. However, if you don't like the look of this tree, you can also arrange your greenery all the way to the edge, and then bind it straight up from the base of the container. So you won't have that flare out. It's basically just a tree that comes straight out of the container. So there's two different styles. There's two pictures in the instructions, so you can see what both of them look like as well. After you've cut your cedar, you can trim your greenery, your fir and your pine. Again, the reason why I've included this stuff is not so much for the actual tree itself, but it's for the decoration around the bottom, or the flare of the greenery. You can see this one here has some pine and some fir and cedar as well, where the actual tree doesn't really have the fir or the pine in it. However, some of the bigger pieces of pine, like this one here, I will actually get you to trim some of these big ones off, because what we will do is we will stick these ones at the base just to build up the width of the tree. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and get your greenery all cut, the other thing you can do is you can cut a lot of pieces, so you can start and then you can also cut as you go along. Instructions now, we're just starting on steps 4 and 5. So we're going to start with the designing and placing the greenery in the container. So we've already cut our pieces. You can see they're all kind of cut to size, ready to go. The only thing I haven't done is kind of trim the bottom, so we'll go over that as I place them in. And the instructions say start with the tallest pieces. We're going to place those in the middle, and then you're just going to work your way out. There is a little diagram that just kind of has the green foam, and then it has some dots, so it just kind of shows you placement of the pieces. They don't have to be like snug against each other or anything like that. You'll see as we place them in. So with your paring knife, what I do like to do is I do like to just scrape off the edge of the bark a bit. Also just allows the stem to get more water. I'm just going to start placing it in. So as I mentioned in the previous video, any part of the stem that's going into your foam, you want to remove the greenery off of. So you don't want to be sticking a piece in like this. What it does is it just gunks up the foam a little bit faster and just makes it messy. It's less clean. So it also just takes up more space as well. So I'm just going to do that each time. Another thing I mentioned in the instructions is a lot of people have a tendency to, because the tree kind of curves over, they have a tendency to kind of design like this at an angle so that you can really get that bend. You can do that if you want, but it isn't necessary. The container's weighted, so if everything comes straight up and then tips over the side, there should be enough weight in this where if it dries out a little bit, it's not going to tip over. But that's about it. Or if you want a super extensive curve, you can definitely insert some at an angle as well. The cool thing about the trees is you don't really know what it's going to look like until you wrap it with the wire. I'll show you. I'm just going to turn the pot. I'm going to place these tall pieces in. The sound, and it's okay if the greenery stem, I usually put about maybe anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches into the foam, and it is okay if it goes past the foam into the sand, because the sand also has water as well in it, so it'll hold it in place, the foam will. If you have any things like this, like knots, I just trim them off, and then I'll just clean the stem a bit. Something that works really well while you're doing this if you have one, is using a Lazy Susan, the circular things that rotate, so you can just rotate easy. As you can see, if we get a zoom up here, I'm not placing them like right next to each other, but they're fairly spaced out. I mentioned in the earlier video, I put some pine. So pine is pretty much the sappiest, I find, of them all. So I clean off the bottom of the stem of the pine, shaved it a bit. These I like to stick in between the cedar, and basically all it does is it just adds bulk to it, so you don't have to use, because cedar's quite thin and flat, so the pine just adds a little bit of bulk to it. To the base, so you don't have to use as much cedar. And pine smells really good. I mean, they all smell good, but pine smells really good as well, so it adds just another element of good smelling freshness to your house. I'm just gonna keep going. I mentioned in the previous video as well, that while you're doing this, if you don't want this flare out on the bottom of the tree of the greenery, you're going to want to insert all the pieces all the way to the edge. And you're going to want to do that with all of the greenery, but for now we're just still making our way out to the outside. So with the flare, I said if you don't want the flare, you want to go all the way to the edges. With the flare, you do want to leave just a little space of the green foam exposed around the outside so that we still have some greenery, or some foam, sorry, to stick the small pieces of greenery in. So if you look at this edge here, we can go like all the way up to here, put it in, and then we still have that green foam where we can stick the little pieces around. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay, so now I've placed a lot of the greenery, or most of the greenery anyways. You can see it's kind of just a pot of greenery. So it's all ready to go. Now what we're going to do is just create the shape of the tree. So with the carnival bullion wire, this is the wire we use to wrap the tree up. There should be enough wire on your card to go up and down, like up, down, and then back up again. So 3 times. So we're going to start. So with the card, you're going to take it from where the arrow's pointing. I would suggest not taking it off of the card, just because this wire is super thin and it tangles very easily. So it's a lot easier to wrap it as you go and just undo it. So to start, what you're going to do is you're just going to tie the wire onto a stem near the base. And it doesn't have to be knotted or anything. I literally just go like one tie. I don't know if you can see that. And then just pull it, and that's it, and it'll stay. So with that, we're going to start going around the tree. So before we do that, you can kind of do a test and see kind of what your tree's going to look like as you're sticking the greenery in. But you can see that's kind of the shape we're going to get. So we're going to go around. In terms of how tight to wrap, the first time you go around and go up, I kind of go a little bit loose. Not super loose, but tight enough to pull it together. You can see kind of how tight it is. You're just going to go all the way around. Don't worry about grabbing all the pieces. We'll grab those the next time we go up. So yeah, just going around. Get to the top. Once you get to the top, I'm going to go back down. And this is where you can get a little tighter and make sure you grab more. If you want it like really clean, you want to grab all those pieces. Sometimes I like having the little bits sticking out here and there just a bit. I'm going to go back down. And then this final go up is when I'm going to make sure that all the pieces that I want tucked in are pulled up and tucked. And then this is also when you want to kind of do that final tight pull, just so that it sticks together. Now if you go through and you realize you don't have enough, or maybe you've gone like too short or you wrapped it too many times, you can always just undo it and start over again. So that's what I seem to have done. But that's okay. So I'm just going to undo it a bit here, and I'm just going to go back. So what you want to do is you want to finish at the top of the tree and have a little bit of excess wire to attach the hanging ornament. So that's why I'm going to go up. And then you should have a little bit more, but you should have enough, sorry it's hard screen, enough wire to attach that hanging ornament. Okay. So that's wrapping the tree. I'm just going to turn it so it's easier for me. You're going to take that hanging ornament and we're going to attach it to the end. You'll notice it's actually filled a little bit with sand. And we do that just because they're plastic. So I just add a little bit of sand just so it pulls the top down a bit. So I just strung it through the top of the ornament. And I just go back up, go around the top, and I just tie a knot. This is where having a touch more would work better, but we'll just wing it. By now too, if your glue gun has been plugged in the whole time, what you can also do is just add a bit of glue where you tied it just to secure it, and then sometimes I just cover it with the greenery just so you can't see it. So there we go. That's our tree. Before we start decorating, what I do is I finish up the bottom of the container. So this is where I've mentioned multiple times about just having that flare out. Now if you didn't have the flare out, you would have greenery all the way to the edge, and then it would be wrapped all the way and it would just come straight up like that. So that's one option. If you want the flare out, what you want to do is you're going to take the pieces of mixed greenery and you're just going to place it into the foam. Again, anything that's going into the foam you want to take off, so I usually just use my hands, or you can alternatively do that, shave it, and you're just going to stick it into the foam. And you're just going to make your way around the container until it's all full. With the pine, cut some of the smaller pieces. Stick them in, and then you start to get that. So I'm going to work on just filling out the bottom. Hi there, welcome back. I've finished up adding the greenery to the base of the container, so she's all ready to go, all ready to start decorating. Everything's all filled out, you can see, lots of little pieces. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the tree trim. So if you want to do this, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But basically it's just a garland that goes up the tree. And it'll be whatever we've included in your mixed kit. So it might be this, it might be that. It might be, I have some pom-pom ones, so either way. We're just going to do it this exact same way we did the wire. So I'm just going to sneak the end in the tree. I recommend doing this first before you put the ornaments on, just because it's easier to put this on and then add the ornaments. And you're just going to do the same thing. Wrap it up like a garland. Trim your tree. And again, once you get to the end, what I usually do is make sure it's wrapped all the way to the end, and then you can just knot it on the ornament or on the tree itself. Stretchy cord. I just tie it, and then with the scissors I just tie it. All the way up. And that end piece here you can just tuck in or trim, whatever. So that's good to go. So now the next thing you're going to do is we're going to decorate it. Now with the ornaments, so the skewers that I've included, there's 3 skinny ones. These ones are for the styrofoam balls. You can just add hot glue and jam them on, but I find it a little easier with the sticks. So what I do with these ones is I just add a little glue to both ends. Just put them on like little barbells. There's 2. Just like that. And you can just cut them in half. So a little bit of ornament prep. Oops. So we have those guys ready to go. Anything that has a wire on it, so if you do have ornaments that have wires attached to them, I sometimes just fold them in half, and I might not stick a stick in it, because sometimes you can just place this in and shimmy it like that. So that's fine for that, but any of these, I usually just take the little tops off. I'll put glue on the stick, put it in, and just let it sit for a second while the glue hardens, cools. Like that. The stars. And the same, I just put them all the way in. And that's it. So I'm going to just prep the rest of these, and in the next video I'll show you how to apply them to the tree.
And go.
Okay, so we've glued in all of our sticks into the ornaments, most of them anyways. The ones with the wires I just left as is. They're all hard now, so what I like to do before I actually glue them in is I'll place them over the tree, and then I'll glue them in at the end. Some of the sticks I've left I've left them kind of all the same size, so you can trim them as you want, because sometimes it's kind of nice to stick some at the base if you do want kind of a few ornaments at the to be this long, especially if you're sticking it in at the top of the tree, so you can just take your pretty shears and cut them. So what I do is I just start placing them wherever, kind of evenly across the tree. And this is why I don't glue them first, just so I can, if I want to rearrange them. So now I placed them all where I want them to go. So now what I would do is just kind of go back. I just kind of pull it out a bit, add a bit of glue. Since I'm doing it on the far side, so it's usually not that messy. And then you just glue it in place, and as it cools you can pull the strings away. So you just want to go across or over all the ornaments. And you just want to glue a little bit at the base and then put them in. And then they stay. So you want to do that to all the ornaments. I have included, you should have I think some pom-poms. These ones I just glue and then just stick on. This adds a little bit extra. Another one here. So I do that, and then last we have the little swirls. These guys, sorry. I just kind of put a little glue on the base just so they stay. And you just kind of tuck them in like that. And you can keep them like flat like that, or you can also push out the little and give them a little three-dimensional if you want. And that's kind of just adds a little bit of fun whimsy to the tree. A little more Whoville. And that's it. So you want to place everything, or as much as you want on the tree, leave it up to you to decorate. I did place a few around the base, and that's your tree. Now, in terms of caring for your tree, it's evergreen, so it'll last for weeks and weeks and weeks as long as you remember to water it. Now the evergreens do drink a lot of water, so I would recommend watering it probably every other day, or like a simple test is just lifting it up and seeing if it's light. Otherwise what I do is every second day, just bring the actual tree over to your sink, put it in the sink and just let water run in it until it starts spilling and it feels heavy again. It's pretty difficult because the foam's all the way to the edges. It's difficult to add water this way. Like with a pitcher or a bottle. So just bring it to the sink, do it that way, and then you can wipe it and clean it and it's good to go. Any other questions, definitely shoot me an email, or you can give me a call while you're making your tree. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate, and I will try my best to answer them. Otherwise, yeah, enjoy your tree. Now they will dry out eventually, so just like with any other live evergreen product like an actual Christmas tree, once it dries out it will become a fire hazard, so just make sure you throw it out at that point. And one thing you can do is you can always take all the decorations off, put them in a bag and save them for next year, and then all you need next year is just the greenery from 2 buds. So anyways, have fun creating the tree and happy holidays!